Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with Matt, Adam, Brian, Doug, and Freddy, where they discuss everything that matters in today's fire service. Now let's get to the show.
Isn't that like a Little Mermaid song? Gadgets and gizmos galore.
Yeah, see, look at you.
Whatchamabobbits and
thingamabobs? I got 20.
I got more.
We're not going to
really,
quit our day
really
jobs,
bassy.
people. We're not.
You're really bassy there, Matt.
You're bassy.
I got more.
I am.
It doesn't matter about bassy.
I'm good
Am
at
I
the
on
Chris
pitch?
voice.
That's the question. Am I on pitch?
Giddy up, boom, pop, mow, mow. I'm good at that part.
That's what matters.
Whoa.
What'd you say?
If your bass is girthy.
It's probably not G-rated, and we should move along. It's probably what
Yes.
it was.
Moving on. I got a green fly on my beer can, and I don't want to drink it now.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness.
But I'm going to drink it anyway.
All right. So this is the first time we've had all five of us on in a very long time. So I want to congratulate us for that. It's been a long time.
Shouldn't have left you
And what?
without a dope beat to step.
And we're using fancy new software.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so
Look at us.
Plug
Hopefully
them, Matt. You know the fancy ins and outs of it.
So we're using a new app to record podcasts called Riverside. We had a meeting with them last week with Eric. The guy was amazing. We're going to see how this works out. I don't know. I hit record. We'll see if we can figure it out at the end. But yeah, so Riverside. We'll see how it works. I'm not going to say it's good. I'm not going to say it's bad.
Yeah. And thank you to the sponsors who make these kind of upgrades possible. Thank you to them for making the investment in us.
Okay, well, segue. That's
Freddy's
Brian's
been
word
more-
there.
yes.
Segue. He's well, welcome back to the Cool Fireman Podcast, brought to you by
Detroit
Unkie
Wi-Fi.
Seasoning.
Yeah.
And by the Burn Box. So go get you some. Go get you some.
3 out
the
of
Burn Box.
the 5 of us. Yeah, 3 out of the 5 are sporting the
Came in the Burn Box this month.
t-shirts.
This is hey, one of y'all stand up. I'm sitting down like him in the corner. Freddie, show him the back of the shirt. This is
I
a
was gonna
sick
say,
t-shirt.
Freddy can probably do that easy. It is.
Whoa.
It is a sick t-shirt.
Pretty sick t-shirt.
Capital City Industries. Second to none.
And got a
Dude, how rad is this?
Dude, hey, it glows in the dark. The patch and the
How does it
coin
glow
go in the
in the
dark.
dark?
Yeah,
I don't
This
know.
is like this-
Trust me.
look
I
at
woke up at 3:00 in the morning. And I was like, "What in the hell is that?" And then I looked at it real close. It glows in the dark. From the fire department collectors
Hey,
club.
Hey, plug the. Is that what it's called? Plug it.
Yeah,
What is
FD
it called?
Collectors Club.
FD
Yeah,
Collectors
FD
Club.
collectors club.
So this
It's
one or
it's part of the burn box, or part of the
Yeah.
part of Tom's business, I should say.
dude,
Yeah.
it is
Go check
pretty
'em out.
sick.
Yeah,
What a
you can
cool
see
car.
you can see the glow in the dark on the Engine 6 and the Car 1.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Got me,
man. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Freddie, you got
Gotta
me
tell you
all
something
jacked
else.
up. I want to.
You gonna build a back rack for your coins?
Yes.
Yeah. I think Matt,
Yeah.
you want to too. I want to. I definitely
Choo-choo.
want to build a, like an American flag with a thin red line, coin holder.
I like
That'd
that.
be slick.
Yeah.
Mm,
Hey, speaking of the burn box, also this month there was a Rascal wedge in there. Did you guys check that thing out?
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
That thing is awesome.
I like it. Had the little gas valve and all kinds of cool things.
Yeah, you can never have
Dude.
too many wedges. It's
Oh yeah, look,
lightweight,
Unkies.
too.
There you go.
So
Yeah, it's multifunctional. There's an O2
you can
thing
throw
on
that
there.
your
There's a
helmet.
gas valve.
Way down your helmet.
What else is on there? Okay, there's a spanner on there. Super lightweight aluminum.
aluminum.
I can hear myself on somebody's speaker.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's probably Freddy.
Nope.
Well, I think you have a little bit of a delay because you keep talking over all of us.
Yeah, stickers.
Lots of
Cowboy
stickers.
shit only.
So
I got one of Mark Wahlberg saying, "I'm a peacock. You gotta let me fly."
I did too.
that was good.
Yes,
That was good.
Mine's the
That's good
I'm a
stuff.
peacock, Cap. You gotta let me fly.
yeah, yep.
So Matt, I know we're doing housekeeping at the end on some other stuff. So what are we going to talk about this week?
I know Max Hood.
No Mex hoods. We're talking about active shooters. So I'm not privy to what's going on. Did that happen today? What's today? Wednesday, the 4th. So if you're listening to this, it's going to be on the 6th. There was an active shooter, and I believe 2 teachers and 2 students were killed. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, that's what it
I
sounds
think
like.
that's
yeah.
correct.
So I have a friend that lives in Georgia, and she said it was just outside of her neighborhood. 4 fatalities confirmed. That was 6 hours ago. So that wouldn't jive. Appalachia, I believe is what it's called.
And unlike normal things, the ticker that I saw that came across, instead of the individual involved being shot or taking their own life, there was an arrest made, a 14-year-old in this particular instance.
A 14-year-old.
Yeah. So this is what makes it very unique in this circumstance. Adam, I see you search on your phone. So if I get any of this wrong, please interject. But that's what makes this unique, because as we talk about tonight, not the politics of this, but our role as firefighters and first responders in response to these. This is one of those unique things, because usually the threat is neutralized or has self-neutralized by the time we arrive on scene. And that's the dynamic piece about this one, is because that's not the case. One of the reports that I heard was most of these incidents are over within 7 to 8 minutes, because if you think about the response time of a police officer, they're on scene within 4 minutes. And so we're on scene within 7. And so their goal is to go in and do as much harm as they can within those 4 minutes, because they know that the event will be over within 7, because those second and third arriving officers are on scene and they're going to neutralize the incident. So not wanting to get ahead of it, that's what makes this one so dynamically different, even compared to what we're training for and preparing for in our responses. So it's kind of unique.
So I saw a early report. I kind of couldn't sit and just watch it all day, because having school age children, it definitely it hits you a little bit differently. But I saw that after the initial gunshots, I heard after the initial gunshots, the school resource officer was 2 school resource officers were on scene within less than 2 minutes, and then other responding officers within 5. And then by the time that they were on scene and they made entry, within 90 seconds of them making entry, they found the gunman, and he surrendered. There was no shootout or chase or anything like that. So you try and find any type of good in it is the fact that more people didn't lose their lives.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through X right now looking at stuff.
Yeah,
That is
4
wild.
dead, 9 injured.
That's crazy.
How many?
Yeah, 9.
4 dead, 9 injured.
So
Whoa, I need
hear
to go
this
get my
stuff, I'm always
charger.
curious,
Stand by.
what makes it right in their head, and usually we don't find out. Well, with this suspect, with it being in custody, hopefully we're going to find out why, in his mind, it was okay to do what he did.
Well, I was going to say the one thing that first responders can't do in this instance is try to rationalize irrational behavior. That is a totally different mental health component here that I think first responders need to remind themselves of. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but if we try to do that, first off, as firefighters, number one is it takes us to a negative place. Right? That's not a good thing. You relive all the trauma that you've ever had, and it's not a good thing. But as we talk, really about responding to those things, I mean, I think back to a homicide of where a father killed his daughter and his wife. And I mean, disassembled and not disassembled, but basically cut the wife up and did certain things. And I'm like, what was he thinking? Those kind of things. And so when you start talking about these types of incidences, you can't look at motive in that moment. You have to think motive is different than processes, and our processes is our reason for response. So let's take active shooter, put it over here. Let's take emergency response, put it over here. Let's take vehicle accidents and entrapments over here. And if you put them all over there on the different pegboards here, that's how you have to deal with it. And unfortunately, each one of those have all of their own dynamics, right? I mean, an active shooter in a place of worship is going to be different than an active shooter in a industrial setting that is different than a school, right? And so our pre-incident planning and our response in each one of those is going to be different, right? Like, I mean, think about it. If you had an active shooter at a place of worship, you have adults that can help take care of each other, right? Like they have some basic understanding of stop the bleed and some things like that. But in a school, especially if we're talking about elementary versus high school, their ability for care is totally different, right? I mean, how do you teach? How does a fifth grader know about stop the bleed? It's not there. But I really wanted to hopefully capture out of this conversation tonight is, what are our fire departments doing across the country to prepare for these types of responses to this types of incidents? Are you staying back and waiting for PD to clear, or are you responding in with them? And if so, what type of training are you doing to do that?
Let's break that down. Let's start with, does your department allow you to go into the warm zone, or it has to be seen clear?
So who's going to start?
Who's going?
I can start. So when I first hired on to the department that I'm on now, it was about a week, I want to say, afterwards. We had a school shooting about 20 miles from the city that I had just started working in. Our chief ended up having knowing people in the area, so he kind of self-dispatched himself. But that brought about a lot of, like, hey, this hits a lot closer to home sometimes than people realize. So we have an Army combat medic veteran on our department who has taken he has shouldered the responsibility of making sure that we are prepared. And he runs a training every year to make sure of that. And one of the things that we do is make sure that we know our roles and what our defined roles are. And then on top of it, what it's going to look like when we show up on scene. So you have, he went to a training where there was SWAT, FBI, police, local police, fire departments, and what have you. So for us, we're going to be on what's called a strike team. And for us, that's going to consist of 2 to 3 paramedics, and then one, ideally 2, but 1 to 2 police officers. And you have an advanced team that goes in, and they are looking for the threat. They are responding to credible intelligence, sounds, what have you. This strike team or this rescue team then goes in, and we're doing what is, everybody knows is a triage type situation where we are going in, we're treating anything that we can, we're throwing on tourniquets, we're packing holes, with the clot saver gauze and what have you. And our whole goal is to communicate what we see, what we found, what we've treated, and move on. You're not supposed to spend more than 90 seconds to 2 minutes with each patient. And we are basically moving behind cleared area that the advanced team is in and, clearing the area. So for us, we can be in the warm zone. You'll have a whole bunch of stuff back in the cold zone to call them up, if you will, when you start needing to do transports and stuff.
Does your department give you any special equipment for going into the
we do.
zone?
We do. So we have ballistic helmets. We have ballistic vests. We have a active shooter bag, just active shooter bag that we carry with us. It's got a bunch of tourniquets, a bunch of Israeli bandages. It has gauze. It has ace bandages. It's basically a down and dirty field tactical kit. And then we also will have what's called a throw box. So we have a Pelican case that's probably this big and this tall, and it's full of extra stuff. And we take that and we're basically going to throw it down the hallway, and we're going to work off of that once we run out of our tactical kit.
Is that Pelican box, is it on your ambulance all the time?
It's on the ladder truck.
Okay.
So the
Which
ambulance
obviously gets dispatched to all high threat stuff.
in town, yes, in town. If we were responding to a neighboring town, I don't know if we would go and grab it and take it with us. But on every apparatus that we have, every apparatus, we have 2 ballistic vests, 2 ballistic helmets, and 2 ballistic goggles.
The helmets are interesting.
We just got vests.
Yeah, we've had vests for several years.
Our response protocol for the crews, obviously being in our division, we're not operations, but I'll just say operations is the same, and our VFDs are the same as what Freddy said. We're trained to go in and triage if you're at a basic level or higher. The 90 seconds seems high to me, and not saying that that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's just kind of how we're trained, is go in and do that rapid trauma assessment, or what color is their card. And if we can slap on a tourniquet, that's what we're doing. And we're moving on, and we're radioing that number back to EMS ops or fire command.
So, I love it. Freddy goes right into like task work, and what they're going to be doing as paramedics. The thing that I think about when we find out that there's an active shooter in a large assembly, or, we've played it that it's at the high school or whatever, is those first 5 minutes. And we've talked about, first in alarm assignments for different things, like specifically structure fires. But since we're talking about active shooter stuff, I'm responding on an engine right now, and this is confirmed. We do have shots fired wherever. I'm thinking to myself, how are we going to organize this thing? Because the more organized that we are at the beginning of it is just going to make the whole scenario run smoother. And so we're wondering, where's the incident command post going to be located? And we have local PD that we work with, so them and us will go directly into a unified command. We're going to have multiple agencies coming in, fire, paramedics, and also PD, and possibly, SWAT and all kinds of stuff. So setting up that incident command post early, taking command, a unified command with PD and whoever else in the cold zone, somewhere that is well known, giving clear, concise instructions on where that's going to be located and where we're going to start setting up medical groups and all that kind of stuff. So in our department, we only operate in the cold and the warm zones. There, PD will clear areas in order to create like a casualty collection point of where we're going to go in. The contact teams are the PD. They're going to go in, and that's where they're going to try to neutralize the threat in the hot zone. We don't ever go in there. Like we're never going to go in there. But we have the same thing you guys do. We have ballistic helmets. We've got bulletproof vests. Those are going to be on. On top of that, we're going to have our yellow wildland Nomex is what we're going to wear to kind of signify that we are fire and not police. And that's for multiple things, and so when we go in, we have force protection groups that we can go in with a couple of different law enforcement officers and a couple of paramedics, and we can go into collection casualty points and bring people out from the warm zone to the cold zone where we're going to have triage. We all know that we're going to have the yellow and the oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The salvage covers, mild, moderate, whatever.
Red, yellow, green, black.
Yeah, thanks.
Right.
So we're going to categorize all them, and then it's basically going to be a massive MCI, and we're going to run it that way with for medical, and that's basically it. But the biggest thing is to take a deep breath. This is a crazy complex, and they say, I don't even know what the national average is, but an active shooter is over in like less than, is that what you were saying, Brian?
Yeah, 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
It's like 7 minutes.
It seems like an eternity.
It's total eternity, right? Especially for the victims involved, right?
Yeah, but the thing with that, real quick, is that we're not on scene like that fast. Majority of people from the time the first 911 call comes in, it's going to be over by the time we're arriving on scene.
100%.
And not just arriving on scene. We're not going to go do anything until we have confirmed with PD that it's secure to begin with. So We're probably not going into that thing until, if it's based on the average, until the threat is neutralized or detained or whatever term you want to use.
I mean, just on regular medical aids where there's a possibility of any type of threat,
any
type of weapon. I mean, we're staging for that. So you can imagine an active shooter. I mean, we're absolutely staying back and waiting for those contact teams to go out in there and hopefully neutralize it or, get it to a point where there's certain areas in the warm zone that we can start pulling victims out of or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're what is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Take a deep
slow
breath.
Down to speed up.
That's exactly right. And I have to remind myself of that all the time.
The one thing that I wanted to remind ourselves of, and this is some after actions that I picked up on as part of the White Shirt Mafia. I haven't thrown that name out except for in the chat for a little while, right? But part of the White Shirt Mafia that we think about is we're going to be tasked in the fire service to do some things that we're not normally used to doing. So when you think about the role that PD is going to be taxed with, they're usually doing traffic control and scene security. They're not going to have the capacity to do that day, right? So the initial surge of parents showing up on that scene because of parents bombarding them, right? Think about it. At a high school, every kid has a cell phone, so every kid's going to be texting mom, hey, there's been a shooter here. Every dad's going to get a text message. And next thing you know, we're out there triaging or doing some patient care. And guess who's going to, those PD units, they're coming, but we're already there. We're outside. We're doing these things. And so we need to be mentally prepared to interact with that parent who says, where is my child?
Yeah.
Right. Like we're used to that, but we're not used to, usually we pawn that off on somebody else. And that there's not going to be anyone to pawn that off on.
Well, that's
and I think
really
that's
the point, Brian, because you have to be okay with the non-glamorous jobs sometimes.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that any of us are hero seekers or fame, fame mongers or whatever you want to call it. But if you show up on scene and they're like, hey, you're the staging officer, is that glamorous? No, you're 2 miles away, standing with a bunch of ambulances, waiting for somebody to say, send me another one. But with that being said, if everybody's in the rowboat and everybody's doing something different, that boat ain't going anywhere. So
that's right.
You almost have to swallow your pride, and all of us are in this profession. Both police and fire are the type of people, I believe, that are there's a problem. I've identified it. I need to go solve it. And sometimes the more chaos that is happening, it makes it worse. And my hat goes off to the police officers on any of these school shootings that respond and without regard for their own safety, their families at home, their whatever phrase you want to use, they're running in, oftentimes just with one or two people. So for us to say, hey, we just got dispatched to this, and I want to make sure that I go in and save a life. That's awesome, because I feel like I would want to do that. But at the same time, if I'm told, hey, you need to stand here with your fire engine and make sure the parents don't get past this until we can kind of get everything sorted out first, and then we'll slowly allow people to come in once we've identified survivors, injured or deceased, we can start compiling lists and what have you. It's just, it's hard because all of us want to help. All of us want to be, I suppose you could say, the tip of that spear. But, you may be the person that says, you're taking notes.
Well, and let's not forget that the other calls are still coming in your community, right? Miss Jones is still having chest pains, right? There's still a fender bender around the corner that, somebody's got, their neck hurts. All these things are still occurring in your community, and there's still calls for service that are occurring, and you may be drawn to your emergency scene, or there may be calls in the queue, but somebody's loved one, okay, is going to be told that they're not coming home. And that may be a difficulty breathing call that you get asked to deal with. And, those are the things that are the hard level conversations. You may be asked to go to the reunification site and deal with that. I mean, they may just say, hey, look, I need for you to go over here and stage because somebody's, we just need you here, there, and everywhere. And I think that's the other thing too, is not just preparing for the initial surge in, it's for the whole totality of it. What happens when it's your family? I mean, I can go back. We had, during my time as county fire marshal, we had an issue of folks doing bomb threats. And I don't mind sharing this. I no longer work for the agency, so I don't mind saying that. I won't say where, but I'll just kind of give the example. I responded to my own kid's school where there was a bomb threat, and my wife was blowing up my phone, calling me nonstop. And finally I was like, what is it, babe? She's like, Preston School, there's a bomb threat. I said, I know, I'm outside. And she's like, well, aren't you going to get him? I said, him and what? All the other 400 kids?
Yeah.
Doing the best I can, babe. Right? I'm doing the best I can. Like, what do you do? Right? Like, and here's the other thing too, is we have people, we need to mentally prepare ourselves for these types of incidents that we may respond to our own kids' school.
Yep.
Right? And that's the hard part about it. The tones may drop. I mean, how real is that? Right? Where we live, work, and play in our own communities, and it can happen. Can we prepare ourselves for that? Can we be prepared to go down the hallway, where our kid goes? And that's a hard thing to do. I don't know. I don't know that I have the answer for that, but that's the mental preparedness that should drive us in this conversation here to go beyond just let me check off the active shooter bag on my truck today. Right? Like that's where I'm getting at it.
Yeah. Very similar to you, Freddie. Other than the helmets, we have ballistic vests on all of our units. Every unit has one ballistic vest per routing position. We also have active shooter kits, or we call them, I think they're dispatched as high threats. It's a fanny pack, and it's got, I think, 8 tourniquets, maybe 6 or 8 tourniquets, Israeli bandages, quick clot, clotting gauze, like you said, for packing wounds. And it's also got a roll of survey ribbon. So every patient that we triage, we tie a piece of survey ribbon on them. their leg or their hand to say, hey, this person's already been triaged, so we don't waste time triaging that person again.
Yeah.
Very similar to what everything you guys have already talked about. We have Rapid Task Force, or RTFs, Rescue Task Force, where we go in with police. And again, it's very small groups of 3 people. You go in, and it's probably not going to be all paramedics. I think you said you guys are your medics go with them, but for triage, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Excuse me. And they get a quick triage, and like you said, hey, stay put. If they're not critically injured, stay right here, don't move. And then you go through the logistics of the casualty collection point and all that stuff. But we are very fortunate with our police department. We have a very good relationship with. Once a year, I feel like for the last 2-3 years, 4 years now, we've done a active shooter situation. We've done them at the county mall. We've done them at a high school. We work well with them in doing those things and training on that. And we do it once a year to keep it fresh and to keep it, look, this can happen. It happens every day, it seems like. So
to speak to Brian's point about, possibly running to our own child's school and all that. Now that's probably something different, but you guys could probably all corroborate that. People ask us all the time, how do you deal with death, and how do you deal with, horrific car accidents, people cut in half, blood, vomit, poo, whatever, right? And our answer, my answer is always just like, well, it's my job, but like the mindset, the mind frame that we're sitting in right now is way different than when we're on that fire engine with a uniform on and we're going to a call, in my opinion. We're all sitting here, we're all, comfortable, and we're just talking. But when we're on a call, you're just in a different mindset. It's, you're on a full arrest and you're doing CPR on somebody. It's like, you just know what you need to do in order to give that guy or girl the best chance of living, and that's no different than triaging a scene. And something as horrific as an active shooter could be, you go into that mindset, and it's our job, and that's what we're trained to do, is to do what we have to do in order to give those people the best shot at living as they can, or get them out as safe as possible. And so anybody that's listening to this and hasn't been on a horrific call might not understand, but those that are listening, they're like, oh my, yeah, I think they're probably nodding their head. Like, yeah, like we go into a zone, like we get into a zone of just, hey, we got to do what we got to do. And then afterwards is when you kind of sit back and you think about it. And that's kind of where the mental health aspect of our job comes into play. And we deal with that by either morbidly making jokes, just to kind of laugh, and not that we make jokes about patients or anything, but just about the whole scene in general. It's like, geez, that was a pretty bad one, huh? And like nudging them, and like, oh man, I don't want to do that one again, and that's just kind of how we deal with it. But I'm just talking about the mindset that we get into on these types of calls where people are like, man, I could never do that. Well, you'd be surprised as what we're capable of doing as human beings when you see someone that is in need of help. You know what I mean? And if you're just a passerby that doesn't have any training, you innately want to help that person. Like you see somebody collapse, you have no clue what to do, but you still are like, okay, I can call 911. I can get an emergency coming. I can see what type of shape the person's in. Hey, are you talking? Hey, what's going on? I mean, I'm talking about somebody that doesn't know anything. And it's just like an innate thing in human beings out there. You just want to help people. And
I think maybe I should have worded that differently and said that should be our motivation, not so much our. I mean, I don't want to say we can do it. I mean, some people can, but like you said, majority of people can and will do that. That's why we're in the profession, right? But that should be our motivation to do it, because a lot of us have the mentality that it won't happen to us. Just like whether it be line of duties, like we talked about recently, that kind of thing. So I would just say maybe our motivation.
Yeah.
I always tell my
it's horrific.
I always tell my kids, look for the helpers. If something's going on, look for the helpers. Yeah. Because you're gonna see them. It could be something as little as somebody.
That's Mr. Rogers.
Somebody who trips and falls on the playground. There's going to be somebody who goes over to help. Look for the help.
Yeah, that's good.
I think this is a good prompt to say, let us know how you guys are trained in your fire departments. That would be our good ask of this podcast. Ask folks to drop a comment. Let us know, how do you guys respond?
And that's what this whole thing's all about, is just creating a discussion, like a conversation all the way across the country. It's like the coolest thing ever. And so, yeah, just exactly what Brian said. If you're listening to this on YouTube or Spotify, whatever, you can create a little comment and say, hey, this is how we do it. And if you have questions, let us know. And we'll it creates good conversation.
And here's the other side of it, too, is I think we also want to know, what you do at your department. We also want to know is, do you have anything? Do you need resources? Do you need resources?
Right. Yes. Do you need guidance to get there?
Yeah, because everybody wants to believe my community is immune from this. But I have a very harsh reality for you. It's not.
No.
Nobody in that Georgia town woke up this morning saying, yep, it's going to be today.
Nope.
Yeah. I mean, how many people are on the news quoted after an incident like that, and they say, really, in this town, I never would have thought. Yep. I mean, it's probably gosh darn close to all the incidents that people think that.
I don't know.
I
don't know if you caught the sheriff's initial comments. I think they were around noon Eastern today. But he got up and he said, my name is Sheriff Judd Smith. He said, and I never would have thought in my career, and then he stopped. And it was a solid 25 seconds that you could see him just holding back every bit of emotion that he had. And he said, I never would have thought that I would have to be standing up here and giving this press conference.
Because no matter what, he still feels some kind of responsibility for allowing that to happen. I mean, even though he didn't, but like he feels responsible for that. And obligated. That's not the right word.
And obviously for all of those, and I know that we'll probably get into housekeeping here in a minute, but for all of those families that were affected either seriously or just
just visually.
For the first responders that went in and had to treat those 2 teachers and the 2 students and the 9 injured. Our hearts go out to them. Check on your people. Check on your people this week, because I live in Michigan. Georgia is half a country away, or half the United States away from me. But I promise you,
that's a country.
Well, right. I promise you that there are people who saw that news report today and were affected near you because of Columbine, Sandy Hook, Uvalde.
Absolutely.
What have you?
You don't think that this is not
trauma works in weird ways, man.
Sure. And this is not a comment directed to you, Freddie, but that's like every time there's a line of duty death, don't think that somebody doesn't think about what they experienced, right? So
for sure.
Same thing. Every time one of these incidences occur, every firefighter that hears about it thinks back to their response. Every mama or daddy that lost somebody thinks about their loved one. Oh yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's relived.
And
the same way that we think about that, the same way that we think about all those calls every time we drive past those houses,
Yep.
You can't help but put yourself in those shoes also sometimes. It's not a healthy experiment, but you sit there.
It's human nature to be compassionate.
Yeah, but you sit there and you're like, I got a kid in elementary school. I got a kid in middle school. Like, what would I do if that happened here? Like, it's just hard. It's hard. So my heart, I know our hearts go out to them. Obviously, if you know somebody who needs help, if you know somebody who is struggling, reach out to them. They can reach out to us. 611. There's a lot of different resources.
Yeah.
All right. That's a great conversation, guys. Tough subject to talk about. Obviously, today, active shooter happens in Georgia, and we have 4 confirmed deaths that we know of. 2 kids, I think, and 2 adults. So it's absolutely terrible. So we'll end that segment. We're going to do a moment of silence, like we like to do on the Cool Fireman podcast, and typically we'll do this moment of silence for any brothers or sisters that we lost in the fire service over the past week or since we've done the last one. Today we will hold those deaths in Georgia and do we'll hold them near our hearts, and we'll do a moment of silence and include them as well. So why don't we do that? Okay, well said. So going forward, the Cool Fireman podcast is just charging right along. We got great stuff on the horizon. We want to thank Unkie Seasoning, of course, Burn Box, get your Burn Box, and it's a lot of cool stuff. Go and follow us on TikTok and Instagram. Not only our Cool Fireman podcast accounts, but follow us individually, because we're going to all be doing Burn Box, box openings and stuff like that on our privates. And so check us out, and we got a lot of cool stuff. So going forward. And also, if you're on a platform where you are able to drop a comment, please let us know, like, if you've got subjects or segments that you feel are important in the fire service, and good discussions all across the country. That's what we're here for. That's part of our why, is to create this discussion, even on hard subjects like this, and what we're doing across the country. I think that it's great to hear from the other 4 of you guys. I mean, in our jurisdiction, we're doing active shooter scenarios and stuff like that. So it's a true reality to the world that we live in today. And I mean, to be honest, I'm sure it's happened in the dawn of time. Even we just didn't have as much information through social media and all that before. So anyways, with that being said, if you guys don't have anything else, I think we can wrap up this episode.
I think Unkie should send it tonight.
Ooh, I like that.
I was getting ready to do it. Pizza Man. Get it, Pizza Man.
For my first comment of the night, roll it, Gigi.
Roll it, Gigi!
Before you leave, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give these firemen a huge thumbs up. Also, make sure you check out thecoolfireman.com for more. Thanks!